Join the fight
somewhere.
against the big penis.
Yeah.
Sign
Down
up.
with big penis.
That's
Down
on
with the big.
patriarchy.
Welcome
Yes.
back to Amy. Welcome back to Amy, and this is our book club. And we are doing Morning Glory Milking Farm, which is not showing up because I managed to put the
You
clinch.
can just duck out the way, Amy.
Yeah.
Just do this.
Ah.
Oh, the nose. It's
Yeah,
touching you.
the nose. So for those of you watching on YouTube, or on our reels, I put up the clinch as my backdrop. So the Minotaur embracing her as her dress falls off like an old one of those old bodice ripper books. So we are looking at Sam Nascosta's Morning Glory Milking Farm. We've been doing Smut Month. We love Smut Month and love talking about all the politics of sex. We are very sad that Peyton is not with us today, but I am joined by Harry Stewart,
Hi.
Abby Guy,
Hi.
Justina Ashman,
Hi.
and Millie Heffernan.
That's me.
And we are joining you, as always, from beautiful Ghana land. It is still winter here, but I'm beginning to get the first touches of spring on Ghana land. And we'd like to pay our respects to elders past and present and to acknowledge that this place has been a place of storytelling and knowledge through storytelling for a very, very long time. And we're honoured to be on this country today. Talking smart.
Hooray!
Talking about minotaur penises.
Yeah, talking about minotaur penises. So we'll do a little intro in a minute, but I will say I have heard people talk about this book for quite a long time. I was trying to remember how many years, but it's been a few years. I remember being in a writing group and someone mentioning it, and I was like, "What now? You're what?" I was so innocent. And then the thing that everyone kept saying when they talked about it was like, you got to read it in the end because everyone's talking about it. And they would all say, it's actually really well written. And I that's the first thing I'm going to say too, is it was an easy read and it was very well written, like very compellingly written.
I would agree. I would say that the prose is, it's definitely not, I can preface now that it's not content for me, but I think that the prose was good enough that I was like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
If that makes
Yeah.
I was
I
sold.
was really interested in all the bits that weren't the sex parts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
agreed.
there's a lot of the sex parts. It is a sex book.
Ugh.
Yeah.
100%. 100% a sex book. Yeah.
So before we get to there, we usually do a drink of like a snack of the month and a drink of the month, and everyone copped out this month because Justina's face says it all. It's like, oh, and I will tell a funny story in a minute. But it was a milkshake which I made, and it's
Well
slightly
done.
disturbing. And I'm going to repeat this. One of my kids, as I was walking down there, was yelling, "You realize you're drinking semen sperm, like semen and sperm from a bull." And I was just like, oh God, I am. I'm getting on the internet holding a milkshake while we talk about this book. And now that's what I'm doing. That is entire. So I'm
But you're
not
not
going to
really,
drink
Amy.
it.
It's just milk.
But you
It's just
can't look
milk.
at it. You can't look at it, Abby. Read the book.
This is what I mentioned this off pod earlier. I wanted to talk about the merch, which is very, this makes sense for this moment because there is merch for this book that is one of those old style milk bottles, like the really old little glass bottles, and
Oh,
it just has the logo for the milking farm on it. And so fans
sure.
will have these milk bottles that they fill with milk and drink milk out of. And I'm like,
Hmm.
because the
I
old
That
style milk
you know
bottle is
is
what?
what they use in the book to.
Yep.
You know what? I
collect
kind
the
of love it.
semen.
I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
love it, and I
Oh.
hope that the actual place in the book sells those bottles with a little
Yeah.
saying, "This is not."
Well, that's what you get if you're like a fifth tier
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ball, is you get the bottle.
Yeah. So for people
Wow.
who haven't
Yeah, we're going
didn't
to
read it before our
introduce
book
it.
club, what's it about?
Okay. Well, I'm just going to read the blurb to start, I think.
Great.
So Violet is a typical down on her luck millennial, mid-20s, overeducated. Well, this is dated already because really like
Yeah.
mid-20s is these now, but bear
Yeah.
with us. Mid-20s, overeducated and drowning in debt, on the verge of moving into her parents' basement. When a lifeline appears in the form of a very unconventional job in neighboring Cambric Creek, she has no choice but to grab at it with both hands. Morning Glory Farm offers full-time hours, full benefits, and generous pay with no experience needed. There's only one catch. The clientele is grade A certified prime beef with the manly, meaty endowments to match. Hands-on work with minotaurs isn't something Violet ever considered as a career option, but she's determined to turn opportunity into a reversal of fortune. When a stern, deep-voiced client begins to specifically request her for his sessions at the farm, maintaining her professionalism and keeping him out of her dreams is easier said than done. Anyway, it goes on a bit, but basically, in this book, Minotaur sperm is like a Viagra, and this is a pharmaceutical company called Morning Glory Farm, where the minotaurs come in and their sperm is extracted, and Violet is there to extract it. And that's what she does for a job, basically. And it
But it's a
is
slow burn.
described
It's a
in
slow burn.
detail.
That's some incredible blurb writing, also, just by the way.
Yeah.
The bit where it's like she's got to grab it with two hands. I was like, oh,
Ah,
Yeah, I mean,
It's
it's
so
good.
true.
Like, she's financially stuck, right? Like, it is kind of a critique of late stage capitalism at the same
Yeah.
time because
Oh,
she,
I mean, that was the most relatable part of the book for me is when it's like, oh, I've got this degree and it's useless for getting me a job and I just have to get a job
Mm,
to get by. I was like, this is too real in my Minotaur sex book. What's going
yeah.
on?
And like, the
Can
note
I?
which is like the people that are in the job that I want, they'll retire after they die. I was like, T.
Yeah, yeah.
There's also a
Can
lot of
I do a
just
spoiler right up front?
yeah.
So if you haven't read the book, oh well, you should have. I love that she keeps the job at the end. I love that she
Mm.
doesn't stop working at the
Mm.
farm. I thought that was a nice touch because I really expected it to be like not that her beau was going to make her stop working there, but that she was just she was going to find a better job, a more appropriate job, blah blah. And she's like,
Mm.
nope, I'm going to stay there because I get good money from
And I
there.
can pay off
So
my debt.
yeah,
So I have a question for you. Do you think it's sex work or is it medical work or what is it?
I think it's kind
medical,
of critiquing both, I would say,
yeah.
because it seems very sex focused, but it is like they are selling a product. So
Yeah,
it's a,
but
Well,
you
would you
yeah,
are
consider? I mean,
you are
you know,
giving all
it's
those minotaurs orgasms though.
yeah. So I think it was kind of critiquing sex work. Well, not critiquing,
Because
kind
then
of
it's quite an
I don't think this
empowering
portraying it.
representation of sex work. Like it
Yeah.
treats the sex work, if we do think there is an element of sex work to her job, it treats it quite respectfully.
I think
Mm.
it seems like there's an element of it there, but it's almost like because the clients that come through all have sort of different attitudes to it, and it definitely
Mm.
does seem like there are some who really fetishize the experience and are essentially using it as sex work, and then
Mm.
others who aren't. So it seems like pretty in that gray area.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because it doesn't make it doesn't seem to the book doesn't make a decision one way or the other. It just leaves it there
Mm.
for you to kind of
I also
make.
feel like it actually did a good job of not quite making a judgment. Like she definitely is a little bit wary at first, but she doesn't seem particularly, I don't know, she seems worried about what other people will think of her job if she tries to explain it to them. But she also doesn't actually seem particularly ashamed of it or
Mm.
like she
Mm.
would be like she would be ashamed of it if it was considered sex work. Like it
Yeah.
And
doesn't.
I don't know that I necessarily agree that the book doesn't make a point either because she herself, like Violet herself, does come to the conclusion in the second half of the book that like it's not sex work for her at
Yeah.
all. And then it's
Mm.
also kind of not sex work for most of the Minotaurs because, like Justina said, a lot of they have different reasons for coming in, and for some of them it is really just the money and all the other reasons. So the book actually kind of does point to like it's not really sex work. It's maybe for a minority of them, but overall it's not really, and it's certainly not that for the employees.
Yeah, I agree. Not for the employees. I think it's kind of portraying in the fictional world what a lot of things. Like there would be tons that we could attribute to being close to sex work, or people naturally assume is part of the sex work industry, but isn't. And I think it just
Mm.
rides that really fine line really nicely. I didn't think of sex work straight away because I was like, oh, pharmaceutical, of course. Oh, this makes sense. And then when it comes to the idea that these people are selling and these people are collecting, and that there was like some kind of hierarchy, I was like, oh, this is
Because I
getting a little
this
bit
is a bit
more
random, sorry,
complex.
bear with me. But I remember watching that documentary Blackfish. Did anyone see that? Really powerful doco. about the orcas at SeaWorld, and when they collect sperm from them, and it was just really disturbing.
Mm,
It was like watching an animal get sexually assaulted, basically.
yeah.
And it's like it did make me think about that, about how we compartmentalize what we think of as sex and sex work.
Mm.
Like, you know, you put
You
it
have to
into
do that on farms. You have to do that
yeah,
for cows
yeah.
and
I
pigs all
Yeah.
the
know.
time. Like,
My
Yeah.
my ex used to work at a piggery when he was young, when he
so,
was a
well,
farm kid.
sorry, my point was more like, is your point of contention the fact that it was the orcas?
No, it's
Because, like,
yeah,
we do
it's
that for farm work all the
yeah,
time.
but I guess my question is like how we compartmentalize what sex is. This is a really, sorry, going into the weeds here, because we kind of medicalize or put things into farm work or zoology, or and the minute you bring in a monster or a shifter where you're playing with the boundary between human and not human, I think those questions kind of come into it, right?
Mm.
Because
And I
if they were men and not minotaurs, would that line, would it not be so grey about whether it's sex work or not?
I don't think so. Only because the whole time, I know it's not
Mm,
quite the same because obviously there's a second person involved, but I really did just think about sperm donation the whole time.
Yeah.
You know,
mm,
the idea of collecting someone's sperm,
Mm.
which is why it felt more pharmaceutical to me than anything. I wonder if the only reason that we are thinking about the sex element so much is because it is in a smut book. And so for it,
Yeah.
you know, it
Yeah.
has to have a
mm,
sexual element
mm.
because she is you know, that's the nature of the book. So I wonder if that's the reason that
Yeah, well, I
we
definitely
are
think so. I think because the descriptions of the collections are supposed to be titillating. So yes, definitely that. But also sperm donation, often people do it to themselves. There's not
there, that's what
necessarily
I mean. I was like, I know
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
different, but I
yeah,
also
so
found
that
that
might be an
the
element where I'm thinking sex work might
the
come into it as well.
descriptions of the collections, you bring up an interesting point. I felt most of them were very clinical, except for Rorke's, who's the main, who's
Yep.
the romance, the love interest for people who don't know. The rest of them I felt were quite clinical. Not in like a terrible way, like a derogatory way, but just like she's the way she described them was like going through the motions. You're at work.
Yeah.
You're just at work
Yeah,
and you're
that's
just
true.
doing your job.
But there is a kind of I want to talk about this quite a bit, a fetishization of the penis, even in the ones that are not with raw.
Indeed. Indeed there is.
Strong focus on the penis.
Lots
And
of
she's
penis
kind of,
talk.
I would argue, you know, when she watches the training video the night before she to goes there for the first time, that
Mm.
she's kind of titillated. She talks about her heart rate being up and being flushed and watching it over and over again. So
Mm.
I thought that was interesting too,
Mm.
that there is this kind of playing in the margins there, like in the boundary
Yeah,
between things.
because then there's a strong focus on the description of the machine and how it actually works in the collection
Yeah.
as well. And so when
Because
she's
it's
collecting,
fantasy,
you're all
right?
yeah. So you're always getting this description of what exactly the machine's doing and how it's doing and what her role is in that. But then yeah, coupled with some pretty intense descriptions of the penises,
I mean,
I think you are kind of running that thin line.
I think just as like for some of the clients, it going there is part of a fetish. I do think that you could read some of the more clinical aspects of it as also potentially like
Fetishy.
playing into a
Mm.
fetish or playing into a different type of erotica that
Yeah,
than
definitely.
the more emotional, like core romance of the story. I'm still just hung up actually on thinking about the animal side of it, and also just because I can't not because I can't not the kind of extractive, exploitative nature of it,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it
Mm.
does seem like for some of them there, it's not necessarily that they don't want to be there, but it is very much like they need the money, or there's like there's almost this feeling of like humans have because it's like this semen is being extracted for use making like human like Viagra,
Yeah.
Mm.
and it's like, oh yes, you've turned like these like I guess mythical creatures into what they can provide for like a human, um and yeah,
Which I mean
not
it
just
happens,
human but
right?
for like
Like
a phallocentric kind
which
of,
people do with rhino horns and
yeah.
tigers and all kinds of things,
Mm.
right? In our actual world.
But when you've got sentient animals or like sentient beings that are associated with animals, I feel like that all becomes even more complicated and I guess almost like symbolically tricky because yeah, I don't know, the like association with like livestock, but when you're t talking about people is it's a bit
Mm.
interesting, hey.
Yeah, yes.
But I like that. I like that about the book that was the thing. Again, I know it's a smart book, that's what it's for. But every time it would start talking about some of the politics of or the like the world building, I'd be like, oh my God, this is so interesting. Oh, the
Mm.
consequences of this. And then it would go back into a sex scene. And I'd be
Yeah.
like, no,
No.
Well, I
I
think,
want to
Testicles are
know more
slapping
about the fairy
again.
customs.
and
No.
I think this is because Sam Acosta's writing is so well-rounded, right? Like good at scene setting, good at character, the voice is strong, the point of view is really stable. Like all the technique is amazing. So
Yeah.
actually you want the whole narrative, not just the smut.
But what is a short book? You can feel how much effort actually went into building everything before the first word was written.
I can
Like you
see
can
how it's a
just, yeah.
series because
I
of
was like,
that.
wow, it
Yeah,
just
well,
so
yeah, as I
much.
say, it's not the first book in the set in the world, so you can
What
see.
is the first book in the world?
I'm pretty sure it's the Neighbors, isn't it?
We
Oh,
can
is
look
it?
this up.
Yeah,
Is
I'm
it the
pretty
Orc and the
sure the Orc
Fairy?
and the Fairy are the first
Oh
book.
wow,
I'll look it up.
I am looking it up.
yeah.
Okay.
Because I was like, wow,
Um, yeah, I really loved all the lore about all the different it's very
No, this
urban
might be number one.
fantasy-esque. So
This might be the first one.
it makes sense that this would be the first one because it
Oh, it is
seems
too.
like there's
I
Sweet
places to
stand
branch off from.
corrected.
Sweet Berries is the second one.
Sweet berries. Oh, not
And
as graphic as Morning Glory Milking
and
Farm, is it?
Moon-Blooded Breeding Clinic is the third.
Oh, okay.
all
Oh,
right.
all
So
right.
there's a through line there a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, no, I agree, Millie. I did find the world building of it really interesting. Um, but also one thing that I noticed weirdly, and you see it in the blurb as well, is that, and Amy kind of mentioned this a little bit with how she's also like a main character whose name I've instantly forgotten for some reason.
Violet.
Violet
Mm.
is like, even though she's fully on board with the idea of this being like a very clinical job, but she's titillated by the training videos. Is that like later when she's talking to the vampire friend that she makes at the coffee shop and they're like gossiping together, but they say stuff like, oh, like premium, like grade A beef and stuff like that. And I was like, isn't that kind of crazy?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't
Yeah.
if you were a minotaur, wouldn't you consider being called beef like a slur? Like, beef is so specifically a word used for the meat that you eat from
Yeah.
Mm.
cows. Anyway,
I
I'm
Well,
found
sorry.
it
we probably
really.
use those metaphors in the real world, don't we? Like we
Yeah.
not we, not I, but some
Oh,
people.
wow.
Well, no, just
Well,
because it's not my thing, but some people would prefer to like very muscly men, perhaps as like as prime beef and stuff. I don't think that's
Yeah, but I
crazy.
mean,
I
we're
think that
not.
is a metaphor in the real world.
What would we call like? I don't think we call human men like the equivalent. Like, do we have a equivalent for eating human as we do like beef? Like, if somebody says you're prime beef, I know that they're talking about me being tasty as like a wagyu steak. But like to say that to an actual cow
I
man,
thought
Well,
it
but
was.
they're not
it's
cows, are
like, well,
they?
no,
They're
minotaurs,
Because
minotaurs.
I had to
minotaurs, but
remind
they're
myself this when he was talking about because he comes from like a family who has a farm and he was talking about keeping chickens, I think it was.
oh.
And I was like, I have to in my head go, this isn't a cow, this is a minotaur. So he's a
Yeah.
mythical
yeah,
creature,
Yeah,
not
it's
a
like us
cow.
Yeah.
keeping
You're
chickens.
keeping
yes.
In the
chickens.
same
We're
way
also
that a mermaid is
animals.
not a fish, a minotaur is not a cow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's cow
yeah.
adjacent. It's
A
cow
werewolf is not a
adjacent.
dog,
Surely uh directly associating a minotaur with a cow in this world would be offensive. You
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah, I
Also,
mean,
I agree though. Calling him beef, I think, would be offensive as well. It'd be like, "Wow, you saying that I'm a cow?"
So
but in the
I
getting
feel
same
like there
breath,
was an
the
interesting tension there between her developing real feelings for him and then also still like taking part in the sexual fantasy of it all.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah.
mm,
So speaking of that, sexual fantasy and smut, Laura Vivenko published an article in Journal of Popular Romance Studies in 2024 about this book, and it's called "Feeling Judged: Reflections of Pornography and Romance from a Minotaur Milking Farm." And the bit I thought was interesting is when she kind of dives into porn, and thinking about smut and thinking about how you define that. So she quotes a work called Pornification, the Education of Desire, and she talks about porn being broken. You can define porn in four ways. One is through content, like the sexual graphic content. One is through a certain lack of content, which she describes as it having no artistic cultural value. The third is intention, that it's intended to get people off. And the fourth is the effect on the reader. Now, I think smut, what I want to talk to you about here is where smut differs from porn. Because I do think, yes, highly sexual content intended to be highly sexual and to have an effect taken that way. But I do think that it does have some artistic cultural value, right? It's
Yeah.
not just purely
Can you
sex.
expand on the second point, the
Yeah, I
artistic
didn't write
cultural
too
value,
many
please?
notes. But
Because
what it
I
was,
maybe I'm not sure yet. I'm not totally committed to it, but I might want to make the argument that porn has cultural value
I
to
think
it.
they're talking about a
Perhaps even
narrative value.
artistic,
Yeah,
perhaps
yeah.
even artistic value. So if you could expand on that point,
Do
that
you
would be
think it
great.
depends on the type of porn, though?
I think
I
probably,
think
I think some of it is not designed to be artistic. Some of it is like, this is porn, this is what it is. But I don't want to generalize and say that all of it is like that.
Yeah, fair. Okay, but
Not knowing a ton about porn.
if we
I
nuance
read
it out though, because I do think there are shades between straight pornography, erotica, um, more sensual stuff, and smart. And I think what she's saying is there is just porn where you have a camera on two people having sex and there aren't any kind of artistic intentions. Because I do think that exists.
I read the article and it was super interesting actually. So thanks for sending that. Like Amy sent that into our um group chat earlier today. But yeah, I found it so fascinating because she talks about how Morning Glory Milking Farm can be almost seen as like a metafictional for the way that we think about romance and whether romance or like smart books are porn. But yeah, she like breaks it down into each of those like qualifications from that quoted definition. And each one, as you rightly say, Millie, turns out to be so much more
Yeah,
complicated under the
yeah,
surface once you dig into
Mm.
it. Um,
I had to skim the
yeah,
article, so that is
yeah.
my bad. But
no, it's a great article. And then one of the things that stuck out to me around that oh, the like artistic value of it is, it's sort of in the article it's kind of mentioned as almost a given, but I'm like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like what is determined as valuable is so like
yeah.
dependent on like your context,
So
your
I guess I was saying there's different representations of sex,
Mm.
was the angle I was trying to get at, maybe, was that actually there are there are kind of different intentions for work. And sometimes it's rough and ready, right? And it's
Mm.
not to say, like Millie said, that there's no artistic merit, but that it's not the focus of the thing. Whereas I think often when you're getting towards this kind of smart book, there is an awful lot of focus on craft, artistry, intention, as much as any other kind of book. And romance has always been tarred with that brush that it has no artistic value.
Mm.
But I just thought that was really interesting because the scenes are really graphic. But if you have the Marquis de Sade, who writes about fetishy sex, that was never disregarded as having no artistic
Mm.
value, even though some of it's quite
Mm.
heavily pornographic. I just thought that was a really interesting kind of consideration when we come to smart, that maybe the idea of, and again, it was like what I was getting at with sex work, is one thing I think this book does really well is not make things too black and white binary.
Mm. Mm.
Discuss.
Mm.
yeah, I
Mm.
Lots of
agree.
thoughts, lots of thoughts.
I
I
did.
think
Yeah.
Oh no,
go,
you go ahead,
Justina.
Abby.
There you go. My thought is not formed at all, so
I was just
Yeah,
gonna
I'm trying
say
to
First draft
form.
thoughts. First draft thoughts.
early on in the article, she talks about that question of is it sex work or not, and then like posits the idea that even if in the text it's not sex work, you could argue that the character is performing sex work for the reader, which I did find a really interesting way of framing it.
And also because I think
That's
we don't
interesting.
see sex work a lot in romance fiction. We don't, I
Mm.
mean, there are some subsections of romance, but in kind
Mm.
of mainstream romance, we don't see a lot of kind of accepting, validating
Hmm.
I can't think of an
representation.
example. Yeah, I can't think of an
Well, I
example
think
I
within
can think of
contemporary.
one, and
I
it's
can
a
think
Yeah.
of
Desperate
dark
Sue.
romance.
but I thought that was kind of cool, like to have this kind
Yeah.
of work and it not be there's no moral judgment of it.
No, obviously, like there is some moral judgment of like the pharmaceutical company and the
Yes.
fact that, these minotaurs may be being exploited in some way, even if it's just, there's a financial element to it and all that. But it was never a judgment on the minotaurs themselves or the employees working
Yeah.
there.
And that there is a lot of focus on it should be pleasurable for them. Like there's a critique she makes of another human girl who comes in to do it that she's not very good at giving hand jobs and that
Yeah.
it doesn't look
Oh,
very pleasant.
Sandpaper
Was
Sally
it?
or
It was
something.
like
Is that what they
Sally
call her?
Sweatpants.
Yeah.
And the implicit idea is that part of your job is to give them pleasure.
Yeah.
And so I thought that
Well,
was
yeah,
all
it's to
I
put
did
them at
think
ease almost.
I did
Like,
think that was interesting as well, because there's almost a level of like, um, it's also like regardless of whether it's sex work or not, it is a level of service work,
yeah.
and so it's
Mm.
like the person training the new hiree who's just absolutely not interested at all in any level of customer service.
Yeah.
Because wasn't there some implication that it was like it could be a health thing for some of the minotaurs as well? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that. Mm.
What if you carrying around
I
how
read
many
the book
ounces,
yesterday.
babe?
So hard to remember.
24 ounces. I mean, I don't want to sound awful, but that is the size of a bottle of wine. That's a
Yeah.
lot. That's a lot of semen. And
There's
they kept saying it too. Like, oh, I can imagine the 24 ounces. I'd be like, that would be the bit I've been trying to push out of my mind.
I don't
Like, if
know
I
what
was
an ounce
attracted, I'd be
is.
like, I don't want that bit. Well, it's about 700 mils.
It needs like, in recipe books that have a conversion table at the back, because I don't know.
Or in brackets, it's literage. Like,
You
Yes.
said that like you read 24 ounces and immediately went to your phone and converted it, and you're like, yes, 700 mils. Now I can keep reading.
Oh, wow,
I
that's
did
so
actually, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I
This
was
is
like,
completely,
how?
we're having such interesting conversation about like the sex politics of it all. But something I got stuck up on in the book that is nowhere near as interesting is that I couldn't get past kissing him. Like I couldn't get
This
past the
again.
Yeah.
fact that she was making out with him and he had a cow nose.
See, cow nose.
Cow nose. I couldn't, like everything else makes sense
Mm.
anatomically, but a cow nose didn't make sense to me. I couldn't follow.
I guess it depends how far along the snout, like where is his mouth? Is
Yeah.
it here or is it further up the
Where
snout part?
where is it, Amy? Amy, do you want to
well,
duck to
in
the
the
left so we can
picture,
get a?
you'd have to
Oh,
kind of duck
In the-
under, wouldn't
Well, I
you?
feel like it's right
No,
under his.
she does seem to be ducking under to get to it in the
It
picture.
Because if
does
you
look
think
like
about a
he's opening
cow's
her on the head.
face, it's right. The mouth is right under the nose, so she
yeah,
is.
that's true.
She's kissing the front of his snout.
Would you get a bit of the nose, that moist
You get a bit of
nose?
the nose. You'd have to. You'd have to be getting a
But
touch of
then
the
maybe
nose.
you don't mind that. Maybe that's fine.
This is like a Peyton with the orc tusks. It's like that's not for Peyton, but for some people, it's probably explicitly about the tusks. For some people, it's probably
Yeah.
explicitly about the cow
The
face,
nose, yeah. I
nose
mean,
So,
they're
like,
very sweet
About the
cows, aren't they?
combination.
If
Yeah.
you start getting too, like, if you get too in the weeds of any kind of like physical sexual intimacy, you start going like, really?
Yeah, what
That's
is
what you
that?
do.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the scene
Fascinating.
in
You can't
was it
think
The
too
Good
hard about any
Place?
of it.
In The Good Place, where Michael is like, why are you like mashing your like mouths together or whatever?
Oh yeah. Why are you mashing your food holes together?
Well, let's just
Yeah.
pause there because there are an awful lot of people on this planet you wouldn't want to mash your food hole against. Do you know?
That's
Like
true.
there are a lot of people where I would be as anti-kissing them as I am kissing this.
Mm.
The
And
hard
then
work
True,
on
some
the
people,
heart
yeah.
wants.
least
You
he's a
know?
nice
Some
man.
people,
Yeah,
I was
some
gonna
he's
say,
people use
Ask
do you know why
yourself.
holes
I'm
together.
anti-kissing him? Because he's a CEO.
Oh,
yes,
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Can I
yes.
please stop for a minute? Because they keep saying he used his CEO voice. And in the bedroom, he often uses his, I want you to come on my tongue, he ordered in his CEO voice. What is a
Surely it's
CEO
just a
voice?
shortcut for commanding, right?
yeah, like
Yeah.
authoritative.
Yeah,
Deep.
but like deep.
Okay.
There
Yeah,
is still like there's that power and balance fantasy there of his like richer and like older and more and still
Yeah, I
So
just thought
the
it was
voice
so
I'm
funny that
imagining is
even with
Violet, show me your spreadsheet. Like that doesn't
yeah.
seem sexy to me.
You can't escape the CEO fantasy, even in the
yeah, I know he's not a
scenario.
billionaire or whatever, but he is still well off enough that he like pays for things for her. Like obviously she's still like,
yeah.
I'm an independent woman, I'm gonna do this for myself, but he still covers a lot of things and he has a
And he
nice
has
big house
connections
or
and
apartment or whatever it is he has and
Yeah.
I like that she
yeah,
didn't move in with him immediately. Like,
mm,
I like that she kept that independency
Mm.
at the end of the novel where she's still
yeah.
keeping her own home.
I like that he's got
I
a
just assumed
massive
she would move in
truck
with
as
him.
well.
yeah, he's got a
Everything's
big. Sorry,
huge.
everything's massive,
Well, I guess it's got to be huge
enormous.
to her for him to get in it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mm.
Except for his
I
towel, which apparently is very small whenever he's wearing a towel.
well,
It barely covers
I
him.
also wonder is like how often people are staring at his erection because sometimes when they're like doing things, she talks about the fact that she can see that he's pressing against his jeans because of the size of it, and I'm like, you're in a restaurant. Like, are people going, that man's has a raging erection right now over there? I was like, what do you mean? It's just like, how many times does that happen? I'm like, oh my God. And I was listening to that
true.
restaurant scene out loud down the back of my house last night when I was doing some work
You're so
because I was
brave.
like, I can't do this
Yeah.
anywhere.
No
And my
headphones?
younger brother came down and was like, "What are you listening to?" I was like, I don't need to explain this to you. I was like, it's for book club tomorrow night. And he's like, oh my God.
So on
Yeah.
the CEO thing, I want to stay with that idea of a certain kind of 21st century billionaire power, but also that is linked up with the phallus. And this is where Abby's
Mm,
research will help too. But the idea of dominance, like even though he's really sweet and everything, when it comes to sex, there's a lot of talk about how his penis will change her physically.
mm,
Like how she will never be able to take another man again after him because he will reshape her because his penis is so massive and powerful. And I wondered
Yeah.
what we thought about that.
I didn't
I feel
realize
like that's
that.
just something that men say.
I didn't realize that.
mm.
I
I've
thought
never heard it
I don't
before,
like.
but okay.
I thought it was more like metaphorical, like, oh, once you've tried this, why would you want to go back to just a human kind of thing?
I
Mm,
guess
mm.
it says, I'm
Yeah.
just going to read it and
See,
please,
I
it's
found that
very not safe for work. So please, like, be aware if anyone's listening.
Oh, I
But
can't
it's
wait for
like,
this.
I want you to squeeze me until your cunt has the permanent shape of me
Mm.
because it's the only cock that will ever make you scream like this again. So there's this kind of ownership dominance thing that's,
There's
Mm.
ownership whenever he's touching her too, because he's like, when he's playing with her downstairs, he's talking about how he is going to do what she wants, but only because he is kind of allowing it. And he wants her to like ask for it, and he's controlling it, and he's deliberately doing it poorly at first before he does it properly. There's this like teasing thing to show almost that he has some sort of control.
Mm. Which is an interesting juxtaposition to the what's happening at the farm, where
Yeah.
she does, I don't want to call it control necessarily because she's just doing her job. But yeah, and it was also interesting to me that they didn't have so they don't have penetrative sex until quite late in the book. And I just found that interesting. I don't know, to kind of discuss maybe like there was such an emphasis on his penis, but then it was all about blowjobs and the like and but then there was this huge emphasis on the penetrative sex, which we know is always the case because that's the one that counts. That's
yeah,
the only sex that counts. Um, yeah, I don't know. First draft thoughts. That was just very interesting to me that there was a huge emphasis on that.
yeah. And it's graphic. Like,
Oh yeah, every bit
like
of it is
except
graphic.
but a kind of a graphicness that's almost abject. Do you know, like words like the obscene squelch of his erupting cock. Like it's
Yeah.
Yeah, and like
really
just
abject.
describing the veins all the time. I did sort of get to a
Yeah,
point where I was dissociating, not derogatory, but just like I was like,
yeah.
yep, and the veins and the pulsing and the
And the
yep,
Mm.
yep,
testicles, the
yep.
And
veins
the
on the testicles, the
testicles.
hanging
Yeah.
testicles. Yeah, Abby, anyway, we cut you off and this is your research area. So thoughts on the
Thoughts
constant.
on veins and testicles,
Yeah,
Abby?
and penises.
Yeah, because
Discuss.
that's my research area.
Discuss the penis.
No, when Justina was talking about how it's like a metaphorical thing that he's saying about, once you've had my penis, you won't want anyone else's kind of. I found it really interesting that yes, this is coming up in a smut book and you can look at it as literal because his penis is not like a man's penis. But that kind of language comes up in all of the romantasy books that I have been reading, meaning like the bestseller heterosexual ones. And so it's not even just in like monster smut that comes up. It is very much used metaphorically in all of those that once I have had sex with you, you will be ruined for any other man because you will never have sex like that again.
And it's always the biggest penis, right? Like the hero has the biggest penis that has ever existed in the history of ever.
Yes.
Can I posit something?
Yes.
This might be obvious. I don't know. This is Abby's more Abby's area. But like, is it maybe because sometimes in these books you're getting heroines, especially in this modern day, you're getting heroines that aren't virgins when they have sex. Is it maybe the opposite or the juxtaposition to that, where it's like, well, you may have had men before, but you're not going to have any after this.
So it's like a
Yeah.
re-virgining. It's a new virgining of the
Yeah,
heroine.
It
forging a
plays
new path.
it plays, I think, into the mythological status of a romance narrative of that one true love, like monogamy, the idea that, okay, maybe you've had sex before, but it's not like this because that wasn't with the one that you're supposed to be with.
But then, like, if we're, there's a lot of talk about feminism and romance having kind of feminist agendas and all this stuff. And I get that sexual fantasy is often a wild free space where we're not necessarily thinking those things. But it seems to me like the penis is a very political object in these things, and that if we really are fighting for representation of different bodies and different shapes and all that stuff, the penis seems to me to be the final frontier for romance and smut to maybe represent different penises.
Yeah, because even I said this off pod before we started, but in the book, even another set of characters who are his neighbors, she's a fae woman, and then her boyfriend is an orc, and there's a conversation about how huge his penis is and how small, how petite she is, and how could it even fit because he's so big and she's so petite, and they have a bit of a laugh about that together because I think she hasn't or she's about to, or they have just Violet's had sex with Rourke, the penetrative sex with Rourke. So she's like wondering like how did it fit and how do you feel? But there is always this emphasis. I've not always, again, I don't want to generalize, but often there is this emphasis of like his dick is so big and she's so small.
There's
Yeah,
often
it's very heteronormative though.
Oh,
Like,
super.
yeah,
yeah.
it's just completely upholding all of the systems that it's pretending that it's
I do find it
fantasizing against.
interesting how, as Abby was saying, that like in the books she's reading, which aren't necessarily monster romances, you have the same kind of language, the same kind of dynamic. And we already mentioned it with the fact that, oh, it's a CEO romance, like, and it's still, there's these levels of the like power relationship between them that seem like some aspect, like I would say it's almost not turned up from what you would normally get in like a non-fantastical setting.
Yeah.
The only bit that is turned up is the physical side of it. Like the rest of
Yeah.
it is very on par with what you would read in like a contemporary
Yeah,
romance.
100%. A really spicy romance. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think because we see the milking side and how that's used as like to develop the relationship and how they meet, it feels like it's more sexual of a book, but really that part isn't supposed to be taken as overly sexual.
Well, we did Christina
And
Lauren's Beautiful
would
Bastard last year, and that is not that different
yeah,
from this actually.
no,
It just
this
this is just it almost feels and I don't mean this in a derogatory way. It feels almost borderline satirical once you
Yeah.
make everything this massive. Like
Mm.
it's taking what we already see in those kinds of
I
CEO
feel like
billionaire
it's
romances.
We did say that the reason that these monster books, whether they're romance or smut or erotica specifically, the reason they differ from romantasy is because they have a sense of humor about them. And
Yeah.
they have a sense of I think irony about what the actual material of the book is.
Yeah,
I
there's
feel
a
like
little
often
bit of
there's
like
also the
winking at the reader.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like often there's also the argument that these are like a fantasy space, right? And so in a woman's fantasy space, then yeah, the penises are going to be large, etc. But my argument to that is that those fantasies come from like aren't in
Yes.
isolation.
Yeah.
They come from
Yeah.
the patriarchal society we're in
Yeah.
that has this false
Yeah.
script about size of penis.
And
And
myth,
so
Like
right?
size of
pure
boobs.
myth.
It's like
yeah,
size of boobs for men, right? Like when everyone gets implants or whatever to fulfill this, or like at the moment, I don't know if anyone read, but there was an article in the ABC earlier in August about there's a megorexia. Have you guys heard about this? That is a condition they're talking about for men who take peptides and steroids and want to look like this guy.
Oh, yeah.
They want
Yeah.
to look like the human version of that, where they're
Steroid
so
junkies and
massive.
stuff, yeah.
And it's a bit like the kind of hyper feminine Kim Kardashian is the female version of that, right? Where you're getting implants and fillers and to look like this fantasy. And yes, great, you want to go do that. But as Abby said, it doesn't come from nowhere. And so for us to fixate on fetishizing the tiny little girls and the big ripped guys with massive penises, that is kind of reinforcing a loop, surely, that is sexualizing something that actually might be quite oppressive to us.
I would
Yeah, I
agree.
think
I
if
would
you
say
are
that.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, that's what I was going to say, that if this was male on male, I would have enjoyed it a lot less. I would have been more like, what the fuck, because of what some of the underlying stuff is in it that does perpetuate the circle. So
Yeah.
because it was hair, I did feel I was a little bit more disconnected from it, so I could have a little bit more of a laugh about certain elements.
Bit of
But
a
I think that if it
distance.
was bit of a distance, but if it was gay male, I think I would have been a little bit more like turned
Confronted.
off by it.
I
Confronted.
fully believe in like the fantasy space and just being able to write whatever you want and all of that, like 100%. But I do wonder that when you're given free reign to write whatever your fantasy is, why are we want all over and over again coming up with small woman, big man
Yeah.
over and
Agreed.
over and over and
that also
dominant man too, like
but the
dominant
penis
man, he's a
also doesn't
CEO.
have to hurt. Like we have these representations of heterosexual sex where the penis, there's all this stuff you must be prepared for it. And it's like all the language is violent
Yeah.
and it's like, well, the penis does not have to be your antagonist.
No, you don't have to fight him.
I think if you did a survey too, and if you went around and you said, okay, so who here wants the biggest penis like
Oh, they've
ever to
done
have
this.
sex with?
They've done
Yeah,
this.
they would be like,
Yeah.
no, nobody wants that. So I'm like,
No.
why do you want this huge thing that is going to like explode?
But then this
essentially?
is where the romance book of it all comes into it, because you can play in that imaginative space without any of the physical discomfort. And so it exists to be a fantasy rather than to be like
I'd like to see some
wish for a real
fantasies
type of
out
sex.
there for some delicate little penises. Bring them on.
Yeah.
Like, let's see different ones.
Where's the small dick representation?
Where's the beautiful,
Regular would be
delicate
nice.
little
Well, yeah.
penis?
Yeah. How about an orc
What?
woman
See, but-
and a fairy boy?
Yeah, and the giant
now you're
vagina
using
that doesn't
delicate,
need
though.
to be stretched out. Like, what about we just play around with bodies a little bit more?
I agree. I agree.
Just some difference. I would just like to see some difference.
Join the fight
somewhere.
against the big penis.
Yeah.
Sign
Down
up.
with big penis.
That's
Down
on
with the big.
patriarchy.
If you guys haven't seen Lesbian Space Princess yet, I cannot recommend enough that you watch Lesbian
watch
Space
this.
Princess, where like the penultimate battle scene, they do literally have to destroy they destroy a giant robot penis being piloted by a much smaller penis. It's incredible.
Oh my God, Justina, I've just Googled lesbian space penis instead of princess because you were saying that. And I was like,
Because
nothing's
we
coming
keep
up.
saying penis.
I did
Penis.
think it was
Have to.
interesting. Something. I mean, I don't read a lot of super explicit stuff, I have to admit. But the focus on semen was really interesting to me because that
Yeah.
seems like that is a focus of pornography, right? Like the money shot is around that. And then like even as you were talking about the penetrative sex as being like often
The
the pinnacle, right? But the focus on how much semen there
Yeah.
was, that he'd put down waterproof blankets and it still
This
wasn't
felt
enough.
this felt a little breed kinky to me, a little
Yeah,
bit. It's not
yeah.
quite what that is.
Yeah.
Like that's what nodding is about, right? Nodding is pretty specifically about a breeding kink because you're like keeping it in there.
Well,
This felt a little like getting there for me a little bit,
I
but
think
just
it
not
comes
quite.
from I think it comes from a similar like cultural psychology though around the idea of virility and
Yeah.
virility being associated with masculinity and like
Mhm.
because like there's like a scene where she's milking him or whatever and then he needs to use two
Oh,
of
that's
them.
right.
Yeah.
He does the
And
extra.
it's like, oh, it's also that's part of it is both showing that because he hasn't seen her in a while. But there's part of that is I think both showing how like the quantity is somehow associated with his desire for her, but it is
Yeah,
also
Yeah.
associated with his like masculinity and like ability, I suppose, almost.
And
Yeah.
money. I mean, they're getting
Yeah,
paid
yeah.
per drop.
Oh
So
yeah, so in terms of
yeah.
in capitalist terms, he's a valuable one.
Yeah,
Yeah. Very good.
I did
Keep
also want
him.
to, we're going to run out of time soon, but just briefly thought we could talk about, Harry, you mentioned earlier, like how he's constantly asking her to reaffirm, like, this is what she wants.
Yeah.
And I thought if to refer back to our previous episode on Catherine Angel, I thought it was really interesting the weight that's put on her consent in this book.
Yeah.
It's almost
Mm.
like it seems to be framed as, oh, he's making sure he's checking in that she definitely wants this, but this still puts so much weight on her to verbalize what she wants, how she wants it, in order for it to be
Yeah.
pleasurable.
The fact that she's
Mm.
doing all that thought work, like all that work in her head, and figures out that probably the reason they haven't had the penetrative sex yet is because she hasn't pushed on it. Like the fact that she
Mm.
has to do all that work in her mind but like the fact that she's been so anxious because she's like, why haven't we done that yet? Well, all that stuff that's wrapped up in it. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that in
It's a
wrapped
really
up with
good
all
point,
the
actually.
consent. Yeah, it's a really good point. And
Mm.
putting all that pressure on her to also just constantly know what she wants at any given time as well.
Mm.
Because you're
It's like,
because
well,
you're
why
right.
isn't
It's
it a
framed
discussion?
initially. Yeah, it's framed initially as like a tell me that you want this so that I can start doing what I think you want. But then it really does become towards it like pretty much all throughout the scenes actually, when they're incredibly sexual with each other, even up to the pinnacle that they're, like
Pinnacle. I love
yeah,
that.
the pinnacle.
That should be the title of this
Of
episode, The
what you
Pinnacle.
the pinnacle,
Book
the
club,
pinnacle
the
penis,
pinnacle.
the pinnacle.
so
But
Harry's
yeah,
like, how
that
many times can I get a word around
I
sex in
really
a
wonder.
title?
I'm
Oh my
like, I
God, we're gonna do
think I
a
could.
penis word counter down the bottom.
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
please. That's brilliant. Ding, 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 ding. Penis, penis, penis. There you
Oh
go.
no.
More dings.
Is it all the different words for it or only penis?
Just penis. You can't
Just penis,
possibly.
maybe. Yeah,
What
I
about
don't
if I
know.
say dong? Is that going to get a tick down there? Willy?
Seen
You
it,
can't
I
sorry.
stop
thought.
inflating the number artificially.
But yes, I do think it's interesting, Abby, because her consent is needed right toward the very end.
Oh, even after,
And
are you
yeah,
okay?
are you
Did I
okay?
hurt you? Are you
It's
okay?
very much a control, but consent,
I
but framed more as consent than control.
I felt like
And I think that's
their
good.
dynamic and that power dynamic really mirrored what you find if you read like a BDSM romance, because often in those like the ones that are like consensual and not like supposed to be in like a gray area,
Mm.
part of that is that consent and part of it is the person who is in the like more submissive role, um like being quote unquote the one in power, even though there's like a
Yeah.
domination like dynamic there sexually. There's like a level
They're
of like that where I was
dictating
like, this
what is
feels like it's
allowed.
once again reflecting the kinds of like other like a contemporary romance BDSM like
Yeah.
smut book that you might read. Um I know that we're like so nearly out of time. I really wanted to like bring up one thing that was like such an interesting point in the article that the like lo the Lauren Vivanco article that you sent through, which was she makes a point about the idea of these like monster romances allowing the like male love interest to um exist in the role of like a sympathetic other, as
Yeah.
in while like the woman, like the female heroine is othered in society and has like disadvantages, there's like, rather than necessarily it just being a benevolent patriarch, even though there's still all the trappings of that, it's also someone who is in some way othered by society. Like they make a point of mentioning that it's like a human-centric society, so he's also
Yeah.
existing in some way on the outskirts, so there's a kind of solidarity between them that you wouldn't necessarily get with a human love interest in this world. And then
Yeah.
there's also,
Yeah.
he then goes on to quote a different critic who I'm not gonna, it'll take me forever to find, but the who talks about how the racial stereotyping though, and how that
Yes.
there's a really tricky place there when if you're just recreating racial stereotypes around like animalistic depictions of men of color, specifically black men, and then like there's like a real trickiness to just replicating that without critiquing it.
Yes. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Which we don't have a lot
Particularly,
in fantasy.
yeah, and particularly when you're talking about penis size too.
Yeah, a
Not,
lot of the sexual stuff and also the animalistic stuff. You're like, oh yeah, this gets really, really tricky if you look at the racial
yeah.
allegory of it.
And the use of black and brown bodies for medical purposes too. Before we wrap up though, I believe Millie has a little game for us.
Just a quick game, just a quick bracket game I thought we could do. Let me share my screen very quickly.
What am I talking about?
So we just go,
Boss
we
discovers
just
Zoom.
are going to go down a list and we're basically going to decide between two monsters. Shall we say who you'd rather romance, or would we like to be specific and say who you would like to have sex with? Because I feel like they have
smut
different
mutts.
implications.
We've got
Who
to
do you
do
want to
smut
who do you
ones,
want to smut up
Next.
with?
So,
Okay.
and then we'll just go through and we will crown a winning monster at the end.
Okay.
This is
So,
terrific.
to begin with, we have moth person and dragon. Now, I've just put
Ooh.
dragon as opposed to like, a lot of the time it's like the dragon has a human avatar. No, this is the dragon.
I'm gonna go moth.
Dragon.
I'm gonna go
moth.
moth person.
I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
think
you go
moth
towards
person
every
as
light.
well.
I think the person
light that's on.
aspect is doing real heavy lifting for me here.
I think it is
Abby's
true.
clearly a dragon.
No,
Dragon.
I was dragon until Millie said that the dragon specifically was in dragon form.
Oh.
Now I'm moth person because the
person.
dragon being in
Yeah.
dragon form is a no to me.
I feel
Not
like we
a
had
fan
to
of
put
like
like
an
real
animal.
monstrous guys in
Yeah,
there.
only,
Alright,
yeah,
so
yeah.
only if he was like a dragon, like
Lord or something.
yeah, like had dragon features, like the Minotaur.
Yeah, okay.
You know.
all right.
The
Dragon
only
Moth
toy.
person wins.
when I was
Okay, moth
younger, my
person, we'll
mum
go moth.
when I was younger, my
Oh.
mum told me that if you touch a moth and then touch your eyes, you'll go blind because of the powder on their wings. I don't think this is true, but it became something I was afraid of. And then so I would just have to stipulate that I'm wearing goggles.
Right. And
Yeah,
this
I
is
was gonna say,
why
is now a good
Not
time
gloves,
to mention I'm
goggles.
notoriously afraid of moths in my household. It's a running joke.
I was
and
going to
then
say, I don't like moth.
if
I'm
they
so
you
scared
go
of them.
blind, Justin, that's why also those minotaurs have to have someone else do it for them on the farm, because you'd go blind if you did it yourself. See, there's a blind hole thing
Perhaps.
happening here.
See,
We
I'm
have
a
to
very
move a bit quicker. We got a lot of monsters
we'll
to get
move
through.
fast.
All right, come
Okay,
on,
so-
So, next, spider creature or fairy?
hard
Fairy.
pass on the
Has
spider
to be
creature.
fairy.
Fairy.
Has to be fairy.
Fairy.
Can't pick
Fairy.
spider. Can't. But we had to put the
Fairy.
spider creature in there. Listen.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
kraken
she
or
will.
mermaid?
No,
I
she will.
randomized these, so that's interesting. So, in the ocean, would you go for a kraken
Is
or
the
a
kraken like
mermaid
an
or a
animal
merman?
or like a kraken?
A kraken's like a big octopus.
A
Yeah,
kraken's
but
like
I
an
don't-
eldritch
but-
horror.
I'm not gonna lie.
No, but
Yeah,
is
kraken's
it?
an eldritch horror.
I'd go kraken, but lots
Kraken.
of arms. It's going to be
So you
fun.
got it, yeah, the tentacles.
I'm
of it
team
all.
kraken.
Really explaining what a kraken is to Amy. It's a big octopus.
All
No, no, I was
Amy's
just
like,
thinking,
I
is it like a
know.
minotaur kraken or is it a
Yeah.
kraken?
Yeah.
No, it's an eldritch horror.
Kraken.
I'm
Kraken
going
it is
with
then.
yeah,
Oh,
Kraken.
okay,
All right, Minotaur or the aliens from Ice Planet Barbarians?
aliens.
Minotaur.
I have to
I
go
haven't read
Minotaur, I
Ice Planet
think.
Barbarians.
No, the nose gets. I can't do the nose. I'm with Abby.
You can't do the nose. Okay. All right.
Okay,
I'm
quick,
voting
hands for
Minotaur.
Minotaur. Hands for Minotaur. Damn. All right.
We
As
win.
it
Minotaur.
is.
No, you got Justina in
Oh
the
no,
end.
we won.
I
Yeah,
haven't
we
read
won.
Ice Planet Barbarians. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, right.
Oh.
All right.
So I have to
Vampire
do
or
Minotaur by
orc?
default.
Vampire.
vampire for sure for me.
All right.
They're
Doesn't
close to
matter
elves.
then.
Oh,
All right.
vampire.
Werewolf or tieflings, which are like demon people.
Demon people.
Oh, I was gonna say werewolf. 'cause
I'm
Yeah, me
werewolf.
too.
vampire is
Werewolf.
werewolf.
That's
Werewolf
3
won.
against 2. Werewolf
Yeah.
it is.
Werewolf. All right.
Outvoted.
So we go right back up to the start. Moth person or fairy? So both winged.
Fairy.
Moth.
Oh,
Oh.
back
I'm
into the
fairy.
sleeves.
Moths are too scary. Ugh.
Yeah, I feel like I have to go fairy.
No direction when they fly. It's in your face.
And
Yeah,
if
Fairies
low
it's,
are
light
boring.
lamp
Fairies are
person
boring.
if it's specifically Mothman lore, also the moth person is an omen of death. So
Oh, I do
Awesome.
think fairies are
Interesting.
boring. I agree with you there, Amy. But I do also think that a moth person would just be clingy.
Okay, quick hands.
But they're
Hands
a
for
night
moth
owl.
person.
You do like a night
easily,
owl.
also
I'm
easily
converted to moth.
distracted by something shiny or bright. So it's
Yeah,
like
they'd be flying
you're
around my
keeping
room. I'm a low light person.
Oh,
They'd be flying
dear.
around like this. I'd be like, go to bed.
Okay.
God.
Whereas the
Hands for
Fae is
moth
always going to be
person.
honest with
I've
you.
been
It's also
converted.
probably going to try and like trap you in a
One,
room.
two.
I think
Two
the
for
fairy
moth?
one.
Oh
Yeah.
wait, no.
Okay.
Two from off. Yeah, everyone else is
Alright.
fairy. I like
Kraken
fairies.
or Minotaur?
Kraken.
Kraken.
Oh, Minotaur.
I'm going to say
Minotaur.
Kraken for the bit.
Yeah. We're
I
going to
think
have one
Kraken's
interesting
funnier.
one at the end, or it's just going to be boring.
Vampire or
Vampire.
werewolf? Wow,
Vampire.
classic. Werewolf.
Wow, this is werewolf erasure.
I'm vampire.
Yeah, I
This
don't
is
need.
werewolf erasure.
Yeah, the nodding puts
Abby.
me off.
I
What about
know.
Teen Wolf?
The nodding puts
We're
Amy off.
all not.
Oh, here
Kraken
we
or
go.
vampire?
Kraken.
Kraken.
You gotta go
I
Kraken.
think it's gotta be Kraken.
If you told me at the beginning of this that Kraken was gonna win, I wouldn't have believed it, but I think Kraken's gonna win.
I think Kraken's going to win. Yep.
This is just
Fairy or Kraken?
Yeah.
Amy being persistent.
Kraken.
Yeah,
Kraken.
this is just
Amy's
Yeah.
decided on a bit, and so she's following through. All
You
right,
have to
Amy's-
do
it
the
is.
bit, guys. It's not fun if you do the boring ending. Now I want someone out there in the world to write us this story. We would like
not
No,
us in
Fae
it.
and the
No, thank
Kraken.
you.
No,
I'm
No,
we
not.
there's
are.
the story.
There
The
are
story is romance
already a
between the Fae and the
bajillion
Kraken.
books.
Yeah,
All
bajillion
right.
Kraken books.
But we
They've
have a
got
lot
two
of
There are
creative
already a
business.
bajillion
Oh, they're all
Kraken
terrified
books.
about what you're going to write, guys.
No,
So
the
get
story
writing.
is a Fae and a Kraken.
Yeah.
There you
That's
go.
the romance.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
That's
us.
good.
Someone
I
has
like
to write a
that.
Fae and a
story of the
Kraken.
Fae and the Kraken falling in love.
Yeah. Actually, all of those matchups, that those are all
Yeah,
just
just go
different
for it.
romance.
It's actually just
novels.
different books. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. It's been fun. We will do Smut Month again next year because we like our Smut Month. And if you haven't read it, it really is well written. I read it so fast, but also like great world. I can see why it's a series, why you'd want to go back to the world.
And
Yeah.
the audiobook is like really well narrated, even if you don't
Agreed.
feel up to blasting it out of your speakers in your
Your
car.
younger brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't suggest it.
In your headphones.
Awkward dinner
just
table
fine.
conversation.
So stay tuned, and I'm sure you'll all learn what our penis count was. Anyone want to throw in another random penis to bring
Oh,
it
yeah.
up to
That's a
random?
very
guess.
Very personal question, Amy. Very personal
Aw.
question.
And on that note, shall
On
we
that
end?
note, we'll see
See
you
you
next
next
month.
week.
We're going to be doing Publishing Month in September. Come join us. We're going to interview some publishers, some agents, some indie published authors, and I can announce the book of the month.
Yeah,
can't I?
our book of
Yeah.
the month.
Yeah.
Oh man, look at my backdrop while I announce it. It's going to be my new book.
Take a sip of your drink, Amy.
Yeah,
We'll
let's
toast.
just all put it all
Oh.
together.
Oh, beautiful.
Mm.
What's it called?
It's called The
For
Treasure
the
House.
listeners.
Treasure House by Amy Matthews, out in September. Not globally. I think it's out in like the UK, the US, Australia, maybe Germany. Some of them aren't out till next year, but for most of us in the English speaking world, you can get The Treasure House September 1st, and that will be our book of the month. And these guys are actually doing a takeover in September. So this is the last time I'll be hosting for a month. It'll be And Amy again. So we'll see you next month for And Amy.
Bye.
Bye.